Welcome to the deep dive. So, if you're like most of us, for years you've probably heard the word cholesterol and just tensed up.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a threat.
Exactly. It feels like this medical death sentence, the ultimate health villain, just lurking in your bloodstream, ready to clog your arteries. It makes you look guiltily at that, delicious butter or that perfect omelet.
And that fear, it's really deeply ingrained. It's been fueled by decades of, well, let's say oversimplified medical advice. And it's created a fundamental misunderstanding about one of the body's most essential molecules.
Right.
You sent over a great stack of sources for this, recent scientific reviews, some really comprehensive guides. And our mission today is to fundamentally change that whole perspective. We want to transform your understanding from just generalized fear to, verifiable, actionable fact.
So we want to give you a really deep understanding of why cholesterol isn't just necessary, but actually vital for survival. And what the science is now pointing to as the real drivers of heart disease. It's time to move past the scapegoat and focus on the real arsonist.
Yeah. Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we have to start by giving cholesterol the respect it deserves.
Where do we begin?
We have to start with what is probably the most shocking truth, the one that completely dismantles that villain narrative. Your body absolutely cannot function without cholesterol.
At all.
At all. If you could somehow eliminate it entirely, it would be fatal.
Fatal. Wow. That's a powerful statement for something we're always told to minimize or even suppress with medication. It suggests the body is treating it as like a life or death commodity.
It is. The body considers it so crucial that it doesn't even rely on your diet to get enough of it. Your liver, it actually manufactures about 80% of the cholesterol you need every single day.
80%. Regardless of what I eat.
Exactly. Regardless of how many eggs you have for breakfast, it's a built-in safety system. It knows that if the external supply fails, internal production must keep going.
That feels like the ultimate proof of necessity right there. So, if the body's own manufacturing plant is working overtime to make sure we have enough, what are these non-negotiable jobs it's doing?
Well, the source material points to 4 primary functions that make it indispensable. First and foremost, it's a structural component for every single cell in your body.
Will.
Yes. Cholesterol makes up between 20 to 30% of every cell membrane. Think of it as the scaffolding and the weatherproofing for the cell.
Okay.
It provides stability so the membrane doesn't just collapse, but also flexibility, which is critical for cells to communicate, to shift shape, and transport nutrients. Without enough cholesterol, your cells just lose their structural integrity.
That immediately puts the whole fear of dietary cholesterol into a totally different context. We're sitting here worrying about the food we eat when our body is using this molecule for the actual integrity of our entire being.
Exactly. The second critical job is hormonal. Cholesterol is the essential raw material, the precursor for all of our critical steroid hormones.
So you're talking about things like testosterone, estrogen.
Testosterone, estrogen, and the crucial stress hormone, cortisol. The entire endocrine system depends on it.
Wow.
And it doesn't stop there. It's also required to synthesize vitamin D, which is absolutely vital for your immune system and your bone health. A lot of people are deficient in vitamin D, and cholesterol is step 1 in making it.
Okay, so we have structure, hormones, immune support. What's the third area?
Nerve support. Your nervous system relies on it heavily. Cholesterol forms the protective, fatty coating around your nerves called the myelin sheath.
Right, I've heard of that.
It's like the plastic coating around an electrical wire. If that insulation is thin or damaged, the electrical impulses slow down. They become inefficient.
So it keeps your brain signals fast and accurate and protected.
Precisely. And finally, number 4 is digestion. The liver converts cholesterol into bile acids. You need those acids to properly break down and digest fats in your small intestine.
Which is how you absorb certain vitamins, right?
It's the only way your body can absorb those critical fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. So if you can't absorb vitamin D because you can't digest fat properly, you suddenly have an immune system problem. And cholesterol is right at the center of fixing that.
When you lay out those 4 functions, building blocks of every cell, precursor for hormones, insulator for nerves, and facilitator of digestion, the idea that this is just a toxic substance seems kind of ludicrous.
It does.
But if it's so vital, where did the whole, decades-long story of clogged arteries even come from?
That's where we get into the first major myth. The idea that eating high cholesterol foods is what raises your blood cholesterol.
The classic omelet guilt.
Exactly. The sources are really clear on this. For the vast majority of people, around 80%, the cholesterol you eat in foods like shrimp or eggs or butter has very little influence on the levels in your blood. Our bodies are not passive plumbing systems, What goes in doesn't just go straight to the arteries.
This is where that wonderful analogy from the sources comes in, the one about the liver as a thermostat.
It's the perfect visualization. Your liver is highly intelligent. It's a regulator. If you eat more cholesterol, the liver senses that, and it automatically downregulates its own production to maintain balance.
And the opposite is true.
The opposite is true. If you starve your body of dietary cholesterol, the liver ramps up production to meet the demand.
Which explains why the medical focus has correctly shifted away from policing traditional foods and more towards understanding metabolic dysfunction.
Yes.
But that still leaves the question, if the cholesterol itself isn't the problem, what is the problem that causes it to form plaque?
Because cholesterol isn't the cause. It's part of the repair crew. Plaque only begins to form after an artery wall has already been damaged and inflamed. Cholesterol particles are sent to the site of that injury as a kind of biological spackle to repair the wound.
So we need to find what caused the damage in the first place.
We need to find the arsonist.
Okay. So inflammation sets the fire, cholesterol rushes to the scene. What are the key drivers then that cause this initial damage?
Driver number one, and this is the big one, is insulin resistance.
Okay.
This is where we need to get a little technical. When your diet is consistently high in refined sugars and processed carbs, your body just floods the system with insulin. Over time, your cells start to ignore the insulin signal, that's resistance, and this environment of high insulin and high blood sugar is, it's catastrophic for the quality of your cholesterol particles.
Can you explain that? How does high insulin actually change a healthy particle into a dangerous one?
Sure. So with insulin resistance, the liver starts pumping out excessive amounts of something called VLDL, very low-density lipoprotein. It's rich in triglycerides.
Right.
These VLDL particles, along with all the sugar in the blood, they cause a kind of biochemical traffic jam. They start bumping into the regular LDL particles and exchanging parts. The LDL loses its healthy, large structure. It becomes smaller, denser, and way more prone to sticking.
So it's the quality of the particle that changes. From something large and fluffy that just bounces off the artery wall to something small, dense, and sticky.
And that brings us right to driver number two, the physical artery damage itself, which creates the entry point. The inner lining of your arteries is called the endothelium. It's delicate.
The sources said it should be smooth and slick, like Teflon.
It should be. But things like smoking, chronic high blood pressure, and yes, chronically high blood sugar, they cause these tiny cracks and micro-injuries in the lining.
And the small, dense particles, they get stuck in there.
They can now penetrate those cracks, get trapped beneath the lining, and then they become oxidized or damaged.
And the body sees that trapped, damaged particle as an invader.
It does. The immune system sends in white blood cells called macrophages to basically eat the trapped cholesterol. They gorge themselves, they turn into these bloated, pus-like cells called foam cells.
And that's the plaque.
That's the beginning of the plaque, that accumulation of foam cells.
That house fire analogy really makes it so clear. You find the fire department, the cholesterol. At every fire, you could mistakenly think they're the cause. But they're there to repair the damage. So our focus has to be on stopping the arsonist. Insulin resistance and inflammation.
It is a perfect case of mistaken identity that shaped decades of dietary guidelines. And that takes us to our next point, myth number two.
Which is?
The ingrained idea that LDL is bad and HDL is good.
Right. Everyone knows that. Why is it misleading?
Because the cholesterol molecule itself, the cargo, is chemically identical, whether it's in an LDL particle or an HDL particle. We're confusing the cargo with its mode of transport.
So we need to stop judging the cargo and start looking at the buses it travels in.
That's the best way to see it. Cholesterol is a fat. It can't travel in the watery bloodstream on its own, so it needs these transport vehicles called lipoproteins, the buses. Yeah. LDL is the bus delivering cholesterol out to the cells for building and repair.
And HDL.
HDL is the bus bringing the excess back to the liver for recycling.
Okay, I understand the roles. But if the cargo is the same, where does the risk actually come from?
The risk comes from the sheer number of buses, and more specifically, the number of defective, small, dense buses that are prone to crashing and getting stuck in those damaged artery walls.
A traffic jam.
A traffic jam, exactly. Too many vehicles, especially small, poorly maintained ones.
Which brings us right to myth number 3, which is the big blind spot in our standard tests. If the risk is the number of sticky buses, what are we missing when we get a basic lipid panel?
The standard test measures the total weight of the cholesterol, the total weight of the cargo inside all the buses. It gives you LDL-C, which is the concentration of cholesterol mass.
But that's not the number of buses.
No, it completely misses the most crucial measurement.
Yeah.
The actual number of lipoprotein particles, the buses that you have circulating.
So you can have a normal total weight of cargo, but if it's spread out across a huge number of these small, dense particles, a massive traffic jam, you look healthy on paper, but you're actually at very high risk.
That is the blind spot the sources all emphasize. Your LDL-C could be fine, but if all your particles are small and dense because of insulin resistance, your risk is much, much higher than someone with a slightly higher LDL-C, but whose particles are all large and fluffy.
Okay, so now that we've really identified the root cause, this metabolic dysfunction and inflammation, we can focus on what to actually do about it.
Yes, a high reading isn't a life sentence. It's a critical signal. It's a sign that you need to address the arsonist.
Let's dive into the 3-step action plan.
Yeah.
This is all about protecting your arteries and addressing that root cause.
Okay, step 1. It uses information you can probably get right now from your last blood test. Calculate your heart health ratio.
And this is a simple calculation. It just uses 2 numbers, triglycerides and HDL.
Correct. You divide your triglyceride number by your HDL number. Your goal is a ratio below 2.0. This simple ratio is an incredibly powerful, low-cost indicator of insulin resistance.
And why is it so effective at flagging that?
Well, remember how insulin resistance makes the liver pump out all that VLDL, which is triglyceride-rich?
Right.
High triglycerides are a direct marker of that overproduction. And on the flip side, HDL is highly correlated with insulin sensitivity. The healthier your metabolism, generally, the higher your HDL.
So if your ratio is, say, 3.0 or 4.0, that's a huge red flag that your metabolic engine is struggling and you really need to focus on blood sugar.
Precisely. Which leads directly to step 2, eating to protect your arteries by targeting sugar and inflammation. First, we have to cut the white carbs.
White bread, white rice, pasta.
White bread, rice, noodles, baked goods. They convert to sugar so quickly and contribute directly to the high blood sugar that damages the endothelium.
And the sources mention one change that's often the single most effective.
They stop drinking sugar. Soda, sweet teas, energy drinks, even a lot of fruit juices, they are primary drivers of insulin resistance. It's a massive load of liquid sugar hitting your bloodstream with zero fiber to slow it down. For many people, removing those beverages is the most profound change they can make.
Okay, that covers carbs. What about fats? The sources were very specific about good fats versus bad fats.
Yes, we need to strictly avoid the bad industrial seed oils. Things like corn oil, soybean oil, grapeseed oil, canola.
Why are they so bad?
It's the processing. They are extracted using high heat, chemical solvents, bleaching. It makes the delicate polyunsaturated fats within them highly unstable.
And when they become unstable or you cook with them?
They become oxidized, they're damaged. And it is the oxidized LDL particle, that damaged, rancid fat particle, that is highly inflammatory and aggressively burrows into the artery wall. It's really the processed nature of the fat. You want to prioritize natural, stable fats.
Like olive oil, avocado oil.
Olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, and even traditional animal fats like butter or tallow.
That's a huge distinction. Okay, so prioritize whole natural fats and cut the refined carbs and liquid sugar. That brings us to step 3, healing the artery wall with lifestyle.
Right, because plaque can't form without a damaged entry point. Protecting that wall is paramount. First, you have to move your body.
This doesn't mean you need to run a marathon.
Not at all. A brisk 30-minute walk every day is immensely powerful. It significantly improves your muscle cell sensitivity to insulin. And when your cells listen to insulin, your blood sugar drops and your triglyceride production goes down.
So the movement basically makes your whole system more efficient at handling the food you eat.
Perfectly said. And the single most powerful step anyone can take to prevent immediate ongoing damage to that endothelium
Is to stop smoking.
Stop smoking.
Yeah.
It directly causes continuous micro-injuries to that delicate inner lining. It's like you're constantly creating new cracks for sticky particles to get into. Quitting is number 1.
Okay, so we've transformed our understanding from just fear into the actual mechanism. Now, we can use this to partner with our doctors, right? To shift the conversation from just managing a number to attacking the underlying cause.
Absolutely. Use this new knowledge intelligently. So instead of just passively waiting for your LDL-C result, you can go in and ask some very specific questions. Number 1, beyond my standard LDL, can we measure my ApoB?
And just to remind everyone, ApoB is superior because it measures the actual number of those plaque-causing lipoprotein particles, the buses, not just the weight of the cargo. It's a much more accurate predictor of risk.
Right. Question 2. Can we check my fasting insulin and my triglyceride to HDL ratio? These two measurements get right to the root cause. They reveal the insulin resistance that's making your healthy particles dangerous. If you fix those, the particles will naturally go back to being large and fluffy.
And question 3 addresses a risk factor we can't really fix with diet, but we absolutely need to know about.
Yes, ask. Since it is a genetic risk, should I check my LPA levels once? LPA is a particularly sticky, inherited particle that greatly increases clot risk, and standard tests miss it completely. It's estimated to affect about 1 in 5 people.
But if it's genetic, what's the point of knowing if you can't change it with lifestyle?
But that's the key. You can't significantly lower the number of LPA particles, but lifestyle is still your absolute best protection.
How so?
You focus on preventing the artery damage, the cracks and injuries. That allows the LPA to stick in the first place. If you know you have that genetic factor, you have to be even more vigilant about your blood sugar and inflammation.
And finally, the proactive question that just changes the whole focus.
Right. What specific changes can I make to my diet to lower my blood sugar and inflammation? That puts the entire partnership with your doctor squarely on the root cause and on lifestyle solutions.
The true story of cholesterol, then, is really one of empowerment. It's about worrying less about the cholesterol cargo in your food and focusing way more on the sugar and the processed foods that fuel the arsonist, the inflammation and poor metabolic health.
Exactly. Cholesterol is a vital molecule. It only becomes a problem when it gets caught in the crossfire of a damaged system. And you now have the knowledge to protect your arteries and redefine your health by focusing on real food and consistent movement.
So we'll leave you with a final thought from the source material. It highlights that this LPA is a powerful genetic risk factor for clotting, and it's found in 20% of the population. That's 1 in 5 people.
And since you can't lower the particle count itself with lifestyle, consider this. If you knew for sure you were one of those 1 in 5, how much more strictly would you adhere to steps 2 and 3, cutting the sugar, moving every day, to make absolutely sure your artery walls are never damaged enough to give those sticky particles a place to land? That proactive defense, that's the ultimate lesson here.